Good morning. Good morning. I thought we would do something different today and do a little day in the life. So out in the garden today, I have a few things that I need to get done, one of which I'm not really excited about, but I have to clear out this bed right here. And if you look, it has a significant amount of dollar weed that is basically choking out every plant I put in here. So I'm not super excited, but I'm going to end up having to pull almost all of these plants out and dig up all of this dollar weed. The other thing that I have planned for today is there is the new bed I put in. And I have some stuff down already, but I have a lot more transplants that I want to put in as well. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to go inside the house and we are going to do some canning. So I have my fall tomatoes that have been sitting in the freezer, and now my freezer is overflowing, and so I need to get those out, and we need to get those canned. And then we're going to prep for dinner. I think we're going to make chicken, like a roasted chicken, with a potato, corn, and pepper salad, like a warm salad. So we're trying something a little bit different and bringing you guys along with me for the day so that we can hang out. I hope you enjoy, and if you do, make sure to hit that like or head down to the comments and let me know if you're interested in these types of style of videos. I can do more of these. All right, I'm gonna get cleaned up and made up and get these dogs inside and fed. We're gonna have some breakfast, and then we're gonna start our day. So while we wait on our oatmeal, there's a couple things we need to prep for later. I have my tomatoes defrosting in the sink. I actually pulled these out last night, and as you can see, it has quite a bit of liquid, so we're gonna get rid of all that in a little bit. The other thing we need to do is pull our chicken out so it has plenty of time to defrost as well. And then I am going to pull out some mix of hot peppers and sweet peppers that I harvested from the garden during summer. I am not about spice, but I do like my salsa to taste a little bit like spice. So I'm going to pull some of these out and put them in a dish so they can defrost. The problem that I'm having is that this bed has an extreme issue with something called dollar weed. It's pretty typical here in Florida because it really likes wet weather. So I'm suspecting that this bed got a little bit too much water, probably from my sprinkler systems. I'm still trying to figure out why this is the only bed impacted. But it's the only bed with the dollar weed, thankfully. Dollar weed is notorious for being basically impossible to get rid of. But you can you can really make some progress with it if you dig it all up. And so the way that these work, and I'm going to show you in just a minute when we're pulling it up, is that if you just try to pull the plant up, there is these roots that run, you know, kind of horizontally down in the dirt, like deep, sometimes like 6 inches deep. And those will continue to live on and push out new ones of these. And so even if you pull these guys, if you don't get the roots, it's just going to overgrow. And it completely overgrown this bed. So much so that the broccoli and the beets and all the things that I put in here, you'll see when we're pulling stuff out, everything is smaller than it should be. And my best guess is the weeds are like choking it out, not allowing the nutrition to get in. Now, you might be wondering, why don't you just let the plants finish? Because some of them aren't finished. And I really wanted to do that, but it's been weighing on me a lot that if I don't pull this out now and get this out, what will happen is I'm going to be planting watermelons in this bed in probably, 30 days or less. And so I could wait until the 30 days, pull it all up. The problem is once I put the watermelons in, it's going to be very hard that if they pop up to dig down and grab them out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear this bed early. I may leave a couple things in here. There's some onions in there that I'm really hoping I can work around, but I doubt it. But if I can, I'm going to work around those. And there's a couple broccolis that are really doing well, so I don't want to pull those out. We'll see how much damage I do in the process. But if I can get it all out now, I can point the sprayers out of the bed so that it's not watering the bed at all. And I can give it 30 days completely bare, no mulch, nothing, and see if they pop up again. If they pop up again, they'll be small and easy to find, and I can pull them up before the watermelons go in there. So that's the plan for today. So first things first, let's get anything that is harvestable off these plants. So I've got a lot of broccoli going on here. So we're gonna get the broccoli. It hurts my heart to do all this. All the heads of the broccoli are small. This cauliflower is very small. So I think I got everything harvested. I believe there's a couple corobis hiding in there, so I'll keep an eye out for them, but now I have to pull all the plants out. Alright guys, so let me show you the extent of this. That is all dollarweed. Everything green that you see in this bed is dollarweed, and I don't think I'm going to be able to salvage the onions, to be honest. They're pulling out even when I'm pulling the big plants out. And that's the reason why I wanted to do it early. I don't think I could fully appreciate how much was in there until I pulled everything out. And now that everything is out, I know for a fact that I'm probably going to have to dig this out twice. So I'm glad I did it now and not waited. Because now it's going to have a month to grow back, and I can pull it again before the watermelons go in this bed. Alright, time to dig. Wow. It's pretty thick. Oh man. And you can see them all. See all those white lines? That's the dollarweed that will continue to grow. Even if you pull these guys off, that will still grow. And as you can see, it's created like a mat. It is so thick. It's a lot right here. You see all of those? So they're all matted together, and if I can loosen them all along the edge, they come out as one piece. Let me show you. It should just come right up. It's like one whole piece. That is crazy. Look at that. It's like a carpet. We got about 90% out. I dug around a little bit, tried to find a majority of the roots that were down in there and dig them out. This is going to keep happening. So I'm going to leave it alone, see what regrows, and over the next month I'll be pulling or digging those out one by one. They'll be a lot easier to dig out than this time. I mean, this time it was severely overgrown. This next time, through this next month, they are going to grow up in little patches, and once I can see where they pop up the flowers, I can dig down there and just grab that root and hopefully get them all out of here. My guess, at least 1 to 2 seasons, might even be up to a year to really eradicate this bed of all of that. So first step done. Check, we got that done. I'm gonna get this stuff in the trash and then we're gonna cool off a little bit. Hey guys, so we're back. I'm brought some transplants out to my newest bed, which I call bed 9. And I took a little time and relaxed inside. I got something to eat, something to drink. It was very, very hot pulling that dollar weed out of that bed. That bed is a full sun bed pretty much all day long. It never has any shade. And so it was incredibly hot over there, which is really shocking because this is not our hot time of year, but it's got to be at least in the mid 80s, maybe the high 80s. But here we are in the shade. It's nice and comfortable. I had a little break, and so we're gonna move on to getting these transplants in. And so I want to show you what I have here. These are very young, and that's okay. They have the right amount of leaves for me to go ahead and put them in, so that's what we're gonna do. I have some salad greens here that are called Salanova. I think it's a hybrid variety, but I wanted to give them a shot. They looked really pretty, so we're gonna put those in. I have some celery from November. These guys grow super, super slow, and I'm going to put those in. We have sweet alyssum. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. That's a flower. It's more of a winter flower, so I'm kind of a little late in putting this one in. Then I have some sorrel, which I love sorrel. It's like a lemon herb. It's very, very good. And some mizuna, and then a broccoli. It's a little late for broccoli in my area, but this is a Brazilian broccoli. I can't pronounce it. Piracaba. It's a Brazilian broccoli, so it is good in the heat, at least the heat of like late spring heat in Florida. It's not going to grow. Well, let me not say that. It does grow during the summer. I have been able to grow some during the summer, but it is not anything you really want to eat. It doesn't taste good. And it also gets infested with bugs. But it's actually a really good trap plant during the summer. So if you wanted to start some of these, like some heat tolerant type broccolis, even some kales and stuff like that, and leave them kind of peppered in your garden, especially in your plants where you know that they get really infested with bugs, you could put this plant in there and it will draw all the bugs to it as we get into the heat of our late spring and summer. This is a bed that only gets about 3 hours of sunlight a day, which is very tiny. So I fully expect that a lot of the stuff in this bed is going to grow slower than what is expected. However, going into summer, these 2 beds right here that get so much shade, they're going to be my workhorses for greens during the summer. Greens and, crops that, traditional people up north can grow during the summer that we can't, like the broccoli, the mizuna, maybe even some celery. All that is going to be in this bed I'm using these beds to really prolong the life of these plants because it gets so much shade, it will stay pretty cool and the roots will stay cool too. So it's a little bit of an experiment. Follow along. We will see how it goes. But for today, we're just going to put these in. So far in this bed, I have some echinacea I'm trying to grow. I have some marigolds. A really pretty one is like a Hawaiian marigold. Apparently they're giant, they're big. I have some mizuna and tatsoi. So I'm going to probably pepper some of these things in, especially the fast stuff like the lettuces. I'm in the sweetest alien because I think that's probably going to go pretty quickly too. I'm going to pepper those in between the rows of stuff that I already have. And then I'll make a new row for things like the broccoli that's going to get big, and the mizuna here that's going to get big, and the celery that's going to get big. So I'm going to start down this line. Those little guys over there, you can see them. Those are kohlrabis. They grow pretty fast for a brassica. I'm hoping that they come up and be gone by the time the other guys have come up. And so we're going to start putting lettuce down into these sections right here. Here's my Salanova. I'm going to try to fit all of these Salanovas right here. And they're so tiny. It's okay. They don't have to be super big to put them in. In fact, I like putting them in while they're young. But I'm going to put them pretty close together. There's only about 3 or 4 inches separating them. Next one we're going to do is the celery. I'm just going to do a line straight through here. So I want to show you when I'm picking my favorites. All right, so these two, they both look pretty good. This guy is smaller, but he's kind of tight. I call that fat. And then this guy is much bigger. But one thing I notice is that his little stem is a little weak. That's why he kind of falls a lot. And then he's got like these yellow leaves. So even though he's bigger, I tend to think he's not as healthy. Okay, last but not least is the broccoli. Normally you would want broccoli to be on the west end of your bed, but being as this is a bed that gets a significant amount of shade, I kind of want to get it as close to the east as possible so it has the most sun as possible. So we finished that task. Now we are going to get this all cleaned up. I got a bunch of stuff that I need to pick up. I got to dump these out. I usually dump this excess dirt into my compost, and then that way my compost can like re-add the nutrients back in that were taken out during the germination process. And then we're going to get inside. I'm ready to be in AC. So we're going to get inside and we're going to can some salsa. So we made it back inside the beautiful AC. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I have my canner here. I want to preface here that you do not need a canner. In fact, most of the time when I can, I use, it's like a silicone trivet, and I just put it in a regular pot. I couldn't find this one online, but I did find one online that's basically the same thing, and I'll put it down in the description. If you're not ready to buy like a full-blown canner, this is a pressure canner. If you're not into that, if you just want to start easy and start with water bath canning, That's really the way to go. You don't need much special equipment. A little rubber gasket, I think it was like $9 or $10, and a regular pot and some mason jars, and that's pretty much all you need for this. You don't need anything special. But since I'm doing several jars and it's just easier than trying to juggle with a regular pot, and if it's going to have enough room at the top and stuff, I'm going to use my canner, my pressure canner. And so I'm just going to fill it up with water. I'm not actually going to be pressure canning, so I don't need to put the top on, but I'm just going to fill this up with water. And I'm going to put the jars in first so that they can kind of warm up in the water, and that will help to sterilize them. And it's very heavy. So I'm just gonna turn the heat on this one. I'm gonna turn it up pretty high because it's gonna take a long time for those jars to heat up. And you want them not boiling, but like simmering. So we're gonna keep an eye on that, because if they start boiling, we're gonna turn it down. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to drain off the liquid on these tomatoes, and I'm going to chop them up. So we don't need that liquid. Now I'm using my Ball book of canning. Love this book. And this is their newer one that came out. It's the older one has a lot of like the favorites, like the standard stuff that you always do. This one has like really interesting things. So the one that we're doing today is a salsa ranchero. I'm not going to follow the recipe perfectly. It calls to roast the tomatoes, and I'm not actually going to do that. I'm going to seed and peel these, and then I'm just going to boil them. Now, this recipe calls to roast them in the oven, and then you combine them together and boil them. I'm just going to skip the roasting part, but all the rest of it is good. It calls for 3 pounds of plum tomatoes. I use any tomatoes. I know some people would be like, you have to use paste tomatoes, but whatever. I use anything I have. Then 3/4 pound jalapeno peppers. I didn't have jalapenos, so I am using, I believe these are ancho chili peppers and bell peppers. That way it's not too spicy. And then it's 4 garlics, 1 medium onion, salt, cilantro, which we're those weird people that don't like cilantro, so I won't be adding that, and then lime juice. Believe it or not, most recipes for tomato products require you to use a vinegar or a bottled lemon or lime juice, but this is a new recipe, and they're actually using fresh lime juice, which I think is really cool. It's all been tested, so I know that I can stick with this. Now, I'm not using fresh, so I'm really not worried about it. I'm going to use canned or bottled. My lemons already produced. Normally I would use my lemons in that, but they already produced for the year and I don't have any left, so I'm moving to the bottled stuff. So the first thing we need to do is get these tomatoes kind of diced and peeled. So the cool thing about freezing your tomatoes is that the peels just kind of come right off. It's like really cool. So check this out. I'm just going to squeeze the bottom a little bit to break it, and they just peel right out. So now I have a pile of tomatoes here, and I'm not exactly sure if I'm at 3 pounds yet. I would suspect that I'm not, but we're gonna kind of roughly chop them and throw them in here and see. I have a little scale over here where the pot is. So if I just start adding, okay, so I'm a little short. That's okay, because I still have this bag right here. So I'm gonna peel those really quick, get them in the pot, and then I think we're gonna be at 3 pounds. Perfect. When does that ever happen, right? When I'm recording. So I finished peeling the rest of those tomatoes. I'm going to chop them roughly. You're probably, in case you didn't know, peeling the tomatoes is more than just for, edible reasons. I mean, like, obviously you don't want to be eating a bunch of tomato peels in your salsa. That would be weird. But there is a concern with something like botulism, where the spores of the botulism live on the tomato peels as well as like on potato peels. So a lot of the times, a lot of recipes will tell you to go ahead and peel them. It's a little time consuming. That's one of the reasons why I really love to freeze them, because they just pop right off. I mean, that took me all of about 15 minutes. Messy, very messy, but done very quickly. So the cool thing about canning is that you don't have to know all of those rules and regulations and what botulism is, or, I mean, it'd be good to educate yourself, but all you have to do is follow the National Center for Home Food Preservation, or a ball canning book like what I'm using today. If you follow those directions and you don't deviate, you're fine. You are completely safe to can your own food. Just be sure to follow those directions, follow those ingredients, and you'll be safe every time. They have tested these ad nausea. I mean, if you remember, or from history, there was a time during World War II when they started, having problems with supply, particularly around food. They were sending food to the troops, and so they really encouraged those back home to can their own food, to grow a garden and can their own food. So they put together this agency, the National Center for Home Food Preservation, to study, test, and teach people how to do this, because it was really needed back then. Well, all those recipes still exist, and they're all done exactly the same way. They've added new recipes since then, but most of the ones we use on a regular basis are from that. We have our tomatoes. I measured these guys out earlier. I'm just going to chop them up a little bit. All right, now we're going to do 2 teaspoons of salt. Now, if you have canning salt, you should probably use that mainly for looks, not necessarily for safety, but mainly for looks. 1/3 of a cup of lime juice. Now we're going to stick this guy on the stove. You can see that this isn't quite boiling yet, but it is getting nice and steamy. And this one, we need to get it hot, because you always want to put hot stuff in the jars. Now, there is something that you can do called a raw pack when you get to pressure canning, but usually with water bath canning, you are always wanting whatever to go in the jars to be very, very hot. Don't be afraid that once this gets hot, don't be afraid to test it out. Taste it. See if you want to add any more seasonings. When it comes to canning, seasonings are pretty much free. So you can pick whatever seasonings you want to go in your salsa. So while we are waiting for the canning, I'm gonna go ahead and prep our stuff for dinner tonight, which is gonna be a roasted chicken, and then I'm gonna make a sweet potato, corn, pepper salad, and it's a warm salad. So these need to be roasted, the sweet potatoes, they need to be cubed and roasted, and then they need to come to room temperature. So the best thing to do now is start these guys, and then once they're done cooking, I can allow them to cool while the chicken cooks. Now this is if you are noticing, this is a purple sweet potato, a little bit different. I grow orange and I grow purple in my garden. I mainly grow the purple for my sister. She's really into them, but there was one that I guess I forgot to give her, and it was the one that I picked up. Yeah. So we're gonna eat that one. So now we have our sweet potatoes. I'm going to spray them with some oil. I like to use spray because it reduces the amount of oil I have to use. Then we're just gonna add salt and pepper. Over here to my little oven, and I'm going to roast these for about 20 minutes at 400. Let's start with 20 minutes and see where we're at. So our salsa is boiling hot, very hot. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna turn that heat down a little bit. It's really good. It looks like it's the right consistency that I want. So now I wanna try it, because that would be awful if I made a whole thing of salsa and did not try it. It's got a little hint of heat, like in the back. I think that's good. I think I'm gonna leave it. As it sits in the jar, it will get hotter and hotter and hotter. So we don't wanna overdo it. Now I'm gonna take these jars out, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually dump the water that's in them, not back in the pot, because otherwise everything will get overflowed. I'm going to dump them in my sink. If you're new to canning, you might be wondering what exactly these are. These are canning tongs, so they're, as you can see, it's very easy to pull these out of the water. You don't burn yourself. You don't need these. If you don't have them, don't let this stop you from, starting canning. You can literally use, tongs or whatever you have in the kitchen that will pick these up safely. The funnel is also not necessary, but if you have it, it is a huge lifesaver, because otherwise everything gets all messy. So this avoids all that messiness. See how easy that is? But I don't want any of this stuff to discourage or dissuade you from, moving forward with your canning journey, because, I started off using just a pot and, no canning stuff, no accessories or anything. And I loved it. And it has been such a lifesaver for us that we can grow and preserve all of our own food. That recipe was perfect because it was exactly 4 pints, which is cool. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean up these jars a little bit. You use a rag, or like when I'm doing a paper towel, some people like to dip this in vinegar. You want the seal to take really well, so you don't want anything in its way. My top's on, and then my bands. I want to show you how tight I do these, because that was something when I first started canning that I could never quite figure out what they meant by fingertip tight. So you saw I twisted it until it, wouldn't go anymore with one hand, and now I'm going to take it and I'm just going to just give it a little, it was maybe not even a 1/4 inch of a turn. So that's it. Now we're going to put these guys in the boiling water. Remember to have something at the base, whether that is, if you're using something like this with pressure canner, it comes with a base, or like I mentioned earlier, that rubber silicone gasket that you can put down at the bottom. All those are great options. You just don't want the glass jars touching the bottom. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this on top, because I don't want it to lose too much water. I'm not actually sealing it, because that would be more like pressure canning. And I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes. So our canning is still going. Our sweet potatoes are in the little oven. And now what we're going to do is we're going to make the rest of the salad for the little potato salad. I'm using some frozen corn. I am really cleaning out the freezer today, which is awesome because I've really run out of room. So this is a great opportunity to get rid of some of those frozen veggies. I'm just going to let this drain and defrost in the sink, probably until the chicken is done. So our timer for the salsa just went off. So So we're gonna turn the heat off, and we're gonna take the top off. Then we're gonna let these guys sit in the hot water for about 5 minutes. So we've given them a little time to cool down, and now we're gonna lift them straight out of the water. If there's water on the top of the rim, don't worry about that. Let that just stay. You don't want to tilt them at this point because your seal is doing its magic. And if you were to tilt it, you could disrupt that seal. As much as that water bothers me on top, I'm just gonna ignore it and pretend it's not there. It will evaporate off very quickly. Do you hear that pop sound? There it is. So I've heard 3 so far. The pop sound is the magic that every canner loves to hear. It is the sound of the jars sealing. So we need the 4th pop, so we need 1 more pop. Let me show you what they look like. So these are our jars. You can see I left a ton of seeds. I'm suspecting, because I pulled a lot of the seeds out of the tomatoes, so my guess is that that's the seeds from all those peppers. So you're gonna want these to sit on your countertop for at least 12 hours. So I just leave them overnight, and in the morning, as long as they're cool to touch, that's when I'll test the seals. So the way that I test seals, so this is a jar of, my very last jar of salsa, which is why I needed to make some more, is I test it in 3 ways. So the first way I test it is I press down on the center, I kind of tap it, and if it moves at all, if it pops down and holds, that's still bad. If it pops up and down, that's all bad. That means it didn't seal properly. The second way I test it is with a spoon, and this is probably for folks who maybe have canned before and you know what the sound sounds like. So when you tap the back of a spoon, you get like a dull thud. There's our 4th one. I can't believe I got that all on camera. That's cool. But anyway, so when you tap it, should be like a dull thud. Now let me show you what it would sound like if it was not a dull thud. So I'm going to take a canning jar here that is obviously not sealed. Very different sound, right? Tap, tap, tap. Ping, ping, ping. Yeah, so that's the other way. And then the very last way that I do, and I do all 3 just to make sure, is I take the ring off, and I leave the ring off because I'll explain that in just a minute. But then I grab it by just the lid. And I make sure that I can hold it by just the lid. And if I can hold it by just the lid, the seal is good. Now when I store these in the cabinet, I always take the bands off because every once in a blue moon, you will think you have a great seal and you will do all your tests and it works perfectly. But while it's sitting in your cabinet, something happens, bacteria forms inside, and it will pop the seal. If you have the bands on, that seal will pop and then seal back down. And it will feel like when you open it, it will seem like everything's fine. Well, it'll probably smell and it won't look good and there'll probably be mold. So there's other things that will tell you that it's probably a problem. But I feel like if I remove the bands, then I will notice it sooner that it's a problem and I can get rid of this jar before really gross stuff happens in here. So I always store them with the bands off. I got 2 minutes left and okay. Cooked perfect. Just a little bit crispy on the outside, soft on the inside. So I'm gonna get these off because the chicken is going in next. You notice I didn't turn the little oven off either because it's gonna go in for the same temperature. Now I'm using chicken leg quarters. I love this cut of chicken. One, it has the bone on it, it has the skin on it, all that nice fat. It just tastes amazing, and it's dark meat, which almost always tastes better to me. And light meat, it adds just a little something that you can't really get from chicken breast. So, and it's the leg and the thigh combined together. traditionally, at least in my area, these are cheaper than if you buy the legs and the thighs separately. Weirdly enough, I guess people don't like them that much. They don't want to have to cook all of them. So we're going to put seasoned salt on the bottom, and now I'm going to put seasoned salt on the top. Now we're going to put these guys right back in the oven. So we're going to do 400 for 40 minutes. And because our oven was already hot, it preheated that fast. So we have our chicken going in the oven. Now we're going to finish off our salad. So for the salad, I'm taking corn and the peppers that we were defrosting in the sink, and I'm going to heat this skillet up really, really high with a little bit of oil in it, and we're going to saute them just to where they get some brown pieces and where they are warm all the way. I'm going to add some chipotle seasoning and some salt and pepper. We are going to add some of our lime juice. Now all we have to do is toss our sweet potatoes in. We're going to just toss those around. Let me tell you, if you eat with your eyes like I do, this is the most beautiful side dish right here. You've got the greens and the yellow and the purple, and even an orange sweet potato would look absolutely beautiful as well. And you can see that all that lime juice has been soaked up probably by those potatoes now that we put those potatoes in. They're just kind of soaking all of that sauce up. I'm going to put this in this bowl. So our chicken is done. Oh, it looks beautiful. So now I'm going to plate this up. And there you have it. My beautiful roasted chicken with sweet potato corn salad. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. This was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I will see you next time.